Ah, fall, the season of adding vaguely pumpkin-like flavor chemicals to every conceivable foodstuff and pretending like it's something you can't do all year round. It's been a full year since I first started doing these seasonal recommendations, and while a lot's changed since then, my thumbnails have gotten a lot better for one all-important thing has stayed the same. There's a lot of new anime to watch right now and only so much time to watch it, but that's why I'm here, armed with an incredible 1-2 punch of too much free time and opinions to help you guys whittle all those choices down to 10 anime that you absolutely should be watching. Well, actually, I'm making this one 11. Technically. I don't put short anime on these lists as a rule, but as a bonus recommendation, if you've got a spare 10 minutes a week, you need to be watching Skull-Faced Bookseller Honda-san. It's about a skeleton who works at a bookstore giving totally professional responses to awkward questions from foreigners about hentai and BL manga and other stuff like that. It is legitimately the most charming thing I have seen in ages, and I guarantee it will put a very weird, inexplicable smile on your face. By the way, this video is brought to you by HIDIVE, a new anime streaming service that I absolutely adore. HIDIVE has some really great exclusive simulcasts every season, like Review Starlight, the second best show of the summer, and this season is no exception, but I'll get to that. The real draw of the service for me is their huge and growing library of exclusive classics, like The Big O, Aura Battler Dunbine, Den-O Coil, and Legend of the Galactic Heroes. They've also got exclusive OVAs and movies from many of your favorite series like Chunibyo, K-On!, Danmachi, and No Game No Life. And most of their series can be watched subbed or dubbed. At $5 a month, they offer truly fantastic value. Click the link in the doobly-doo to start your 7-day free trial and see what's so great about HIDIVE for yourself today. With that out of the way, these are the ones to watch for fall 2018. And I've got to kick this list off by addressing the elephant in the room, don't I? Fall 2018 has brought with it a great new iteration of something that I've talked about a lot, often disparagingly. A show about an ordinary Japanese guy who leaves the real world for a fantasy land where he becomes stupidly powerful. Yes, that time I was reincarnated as a slime is yet another isekai anime. But it's not just another isekai anime. It sets itself apart from the pack by being really goofy, fun, and laid back. The series stars a 40-year-old virgin who gets killed by a mugger while hanging out with his work friends and is subsequently reincarnated in another world, as a slime. The series has a charming, cartoony sense of humor that reminds me a lot of the cel-shaded Zelda games and the Dragon Quest series, which is appropriate. The setting is a fantasy world with pretty substantial lore behind it, where danger looms in the distance and brave adventurers fight against evil, but everything is played with a laid-back, tongue-in-cheek attitude. This is a show where our hero's dying wishes are to get laid in his next life and to have his kohai please, for the love of God, nuke his hard drive before his family gets to it. That time I reincarnated as a slime marches to the beat of its own drum, and that's what makes it so fun. I'm sure our hero will have his harem and power fantasy in good time, but instead of immediately ticking boxes on the things that sell light novels checklist, the first 2 episodes mostly just focus on our unlikely hero as he hops around in a cave, figuring out his new body and making friends with a tsundere dragon. It's nice, cute, and genuinely feels different from your usual isekai or fantasy light fare. And who could forget that one show about a young man who gets sucked into a video game world and is forced to fight for his life and the life of those around him. With Gridman, Studio Trigger offers its own unique take on the classic Ultraman tokusatsu formula of giant superheroes fighting kaiju. Gridman is based on Gridman the Hyper Agent, a short-lived tokusatsu series from the 90s dubbed as Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad in the West, which is I think what the 4 S's in the anime title actually stand for, and that's kinda neat. But you don't need to know any of that to appreciate this anime, which has an entirely original story. That story is about a young man named Yuta Hibiki, who wakes up one day in a female classmate's apartment, suffering from a bad case of amnesia and a worse case of trippy hallucinations. Computers talking to him, kaiju that nobody else can see looming over the city in the distance, that whole bit. As you can probably guess, he's not actually hallucinating, and to save the city from those kaiju, Yuta must dive into a retro computer and fuse with Gridman, the cybernetic superhero who lives within, turning into a giant warrior who can fight them off. In many ways, this is a standard tokusatsu setup. A big monster appears, Yuta turns into an equally big hero, and they fight. but the action is top-notch. The show really takes advantage of its animated nature to do things that just aren't possible in live action, while still maintaining the distinct physicality and weight of dudes in goofy rubber suits fighting each other on tiny sets. As you'd expect from Trigger, Gridman sets itself apart with a big, quirky cast of characters, a surreal tone, and an intriguing underlying sense of mystery. And as you might also expect from Trigger, there is a distinctive possibility that this will go totally off the rails before it ends. But off the rails is where director Akira Amamiya, who also helmed Ninja Slayer and Inferno Cop, lives. So even if it does, I have high hopes that it will at least stay entertaining. Now, of course, I couldn't get through this list without addressing a certain great show that features a passionate romance between a handsome guy dressed all in black and a cute girl dressed all in white. And swords, lots of swords, a show that highlights the art of swordplay, the sword art, if you will. Boarding School Juliet takes the classic Shakespearean tragedy that we all read in middle school lit class and translates it to, well, a posh boarding school attended by students from two feuding nations, who organize themselves into gangs known as the Black Dogs and the White Cats. The leaders of those two factions, Romeo Inuzuka and Juliet Persia, are secretly in love with each other, which is a little awkward since their friends try to kick the crap out of each other on a daily basis. This isn't the first anime to borrow plot points from the Bard, or even the first to adapt his famous star-crossed lovers. Like Romeo x Juliet before it, this anime imbues its leads with fantastic romantic chemistry, going to lengths to make it clear not just that they love each other, but why they love each other, which is sadly very rare in romance anime. It also features some absolutely incredible sword fight animation, like, damn, Leiden Films turns it up to 11 for the episode 1 climax. What sets Boarding School Juliet apart is that it transforms the tragedy into a romantic comedy, but one that remarkably still feels like a properly Shakespearean comedy, driven by exaggerated emotions and packed with soliloquies, convoluted plots gone awry, and lively supporting characters. You can tell that creator Yosuke Kaneda is coming at this adaptation with a genuine respect for Shakespeare's body of work. If you're interested in a different kind of swordplay involving more katanas, Leydus's new original anime, Release the Spice, has you covered. The series follows the exploits of the Tsukikage, a team of ninja spies comprised entirely of high school girls, because of course it is, named for famous historical ninjas, because of course they are, who must use performance-enhancing spices to gain superhuman abilities and do battle with a sinister criminal organization known as Morio. Our hero is Momo Minamoto, a young girl with almost superhuman senses who worries that her lack of courage might mean that she can never fill her dad's shoes as a cop. Momo's strong senses, most importantly her sense of justice, catch the attention of Tsukikage agents at her school, and after some cutesy Yuri-baiting hijinks, she finds herself recruited as a spy. It's hard not to note the similarities between this and Princess Principal, Studio 3 Hertz's anime about cute girls doing spy things from last year. But where that show was a serious wartime spy drama, Release the Spice's supercharged espionage feels more in line with a goofy Saturday morning cartoon. The heroes are all upbeat modern teenage girls with modern teenage girl problems, and the villain lineup is of the cackling megalomaniacal Hail Cobra variety. And you know what? I kind of miss that Saturday morning cartoon feel sometimes, and it's nice to see it captured in a well-produced original anime with vague Yuri undertones. I don't exactly expect this to be some brilliant, taut spy thriller, but with character designs from Yuri creator Nomori and a script written by Akame ga Kill creator and Yuki Yuna writer Takahiro, I do expect it to be a goofy, moderately sexy good time. Thus far, it has delivered marvelously. Okay, so we've got one show about cute girls down and more to come, but what about the cute dudes? If that's what you're looking for, do not, I repeat, do not watch Dakaichi. Jesus Christ, I wish I could unsee it. What you should be watching is Run with the Wind, a new sports series from Haikyuu creators Production IG, which focuses on a quirky group of college-age misfits drawn together by their collective ambition to find a dorm room with cheap rent and free food. As it turns out, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and as a condition of their tenancy, they have to join the university's track and field club, led by an ambitious fourth-year Kiyose Haiji, who dreams of running in the prestigious Hakone Ekiden Marathon before he graduates. Actually, even if you're not actively watching it for the cute boys, you will probably love this show. Run with the Wind is one of the best produced shows of the season, presented with a real eye for cinematic storytelling, a strong sense of humor, and remarkable attention to detail. The show's environments feel truly lived in, and characters spring off the screen with expressive, lively body language. Run with the Wind has all the charm and visual energy of Haikyuu, but with a more reserved, mature script that gives away its origins as a seinen or adult manga, specifically a manga written by Funewo Amu author Shion Miura. If you've seen Funewo Amu or The Great Passage, then you know that means that we're in for some incredibly strong character writing here. And if you haven't, you really should watch The Great Passage too, because it is fantastic. If you enjoyed last season's Grand Blue Dreaming, Run with the Wind offers a less raunchy but no less fun take on the college sports experience. It's a show about passionate people following their dreams, dragging less passionate people along for the ride, and forging unlikely friendships along the way with, so far, a near-perfect mix of comedy and drama. If you're in the mood for drama that's a bit less grounded, Irozuku: The World in Colors is a stunningly beautiful original anime from PA Works that tells a tale of magic-infused romance. The series follows Hitomi, an emotionally stunted young woman from a family of witches who lives in a bleak future where magic is barely present, and who is unable to see color as a result of her dulled emotions. Hoping to help her grow and break out of her shell, Hitomi's grandmother sends her back in time to 2018, when she might just be able to make some real friends and maybe even find true love. Hopefully without Marty McFlying herself out of existence or something tragic like that. The first episode has a pretty lighthearted tone, but given the premise and the fact that it's a PA Works original, I expect that it's going to hit some pretty tear-jerking high notes before it ends. With Nagi no Asakura director Toshio Shinohara teaming up once again with composer Yoshiaki Dewa, it's no surprise that The World in Colors is an absolute treat for the senses. This is seriously a beautiful show in every respect of the word. And thanks to series composition from Tsukigakure writer Kakihara Yuko, its teenage dialogue feels very authentic. Now, PA Works does have a bit of a history with original shows that start off promising but turn out to be profound letdowns, not to name any names, but with the team they've assembled to work on this one, I'm very optimistic that it will keep up its quality to the end. And so far, it has been fantastic. If you like a good Doki Doki Shoujo love story, or you appreciate contemporary fantasy, I think you're gonna have a really good time with this one. It would almost certainly make Yu Koito's heart flutter. She's the protagonist of Bloom Into You, a girl who's read all about the warm, happy feelings of love in manga, but never felt it for herself. One day she meets a kindred spirit in the beautiful student council vice president, Nanami Toko, who has also never experienced love. Well, not until now. Yes, Bloom Into You is a Yuri anime, a sweet, tender one that really lives up to its shoujo manga influences. But one thing that it thankfully doesn't borrow from shoujo romance is the pacing. By the end of episode 1, we've already seen a confession, not to mention that most lurid and taboo of sexual acts, hand-holding. Although it does kind of immediately walk the confession back, and it seems like Yu needs some time to sort out her feelings, so maybe it will take the slow road after all. But even if it does, I don't know if that's really a problem. While I have no doubt that the romance is going to be really strong once it gets going, what stands out to me about Bloom Into You right now is the maturity and thoughtfulness with which it handles its underlying themes. Growing into adulthood and figuring out your feelings and sexuality can be really confusing, especially when your experience doesn't line up with the expectations set by media. This show does a great job of capturing that turbulent mindset. It really dives into the isolation that Yu feels as a slow bloomer, never experiencing that spark when all of her friends are becoming increasingly obsessed with boys. The dilemma of having a good friend who's in love with her and not wanting to hurt his feelings while also not being able to return them. It's true to the ambiguity of adolescence in a way that most romance anime just aren't, but it still manages to capture the fluffy, warm feelings that make the genre so appealing when it really needs to. Okay, maybe all this talk about romance and realism is leaving you a little bored. I get that. Sometimes you just want a fast, punchy, ridiculous shonen battle series that will get your heart pumping. Lucky for you, the same studio and production team that made Ushio and Tora back in 2015 has reunited to adapt author Kazuhiro Fujita's next manga, Karakuri Circus. If you didn't watch Ushio and Tora, it was an adaptation of an older manga from the early 90s, which wasn't exactly retro. Unlike, say, Megalobox, it makes no attempt to hide the fact that it's an HD digital anime, but it still managed to feel exactly like the kind of red-blooded, testosterone-fueled shonen series that they just don't make anymore. Karakuri Circus captures that same tone and style, and I don't know, this might be my nostalgia talking, but I loved it then and I'm really loving it now. Even by shonen battle standards, Karakuri Circus has a heck of a weird gimmick. As the title suggests, most of the fighting is done by karakuri, Japanese mechanical puppets that were traditionally used to do things like serve tea and entertain children. Though the puppets in this show are less concerned with entertaining kids than they are with murdering them. Well, with murdering one kid in particular, Masaru, the heir to a tech company fortune who's been pursued by mechanical assassins since the day his father died. Fortunately for Masaru, he has a pair of able-bodied protectors in Narumi Kato, a Kenpo master turned clown with a disease that will kill him if he can't make people laugh, and Shirogane, a puppeteer who wields a powerful karakuri named Harlequin. There's no getting around it. This is an odd concept, but it's also a really cool one with a lot of unique potential. We get fights where combatants don't have to conform to the restrictions of the human body, which lets them do some really cool and really creepy things in combat. And the story has an intriguing air of mystery to it that leaves me eager to see where it will go next. Although, as mysterious happenings go, I've gotta say that I'm a little bit more intrigued by Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, which, I mean, with the title like that, do I even have to say that it's a light novel adaptation? More specifically, it's an adaptation of a novel by Pet Girl of Sakura-so writer Hajime Kamoshida. So right off the bat, you can probably guess that you're in for a well-written, unconventional romance with a quirky cast of characters. On that promise, this show delivers. The chemistry between its leads, the haughty Sakurajima Mai and the reserved, straight-talking, unusually confident Azusagawa Sakuta, is palpable from their very first moment together. But there's more at play here than just teenage hormones. See, Mai isn't your average schoolgirl. She's a former child actress with a torrid history and no real friends. Outside of school, she's also kind of invisible to everyone but Sakuta, and wanders around wearing a bunny girl costume because, you know, she can. This invisibility seems to be a symptom of a broader phenomenon called adolescent syndrome, which causes supernatural events to happen to troubled kids going through puberty. A problem that Sakuta has also dealt with in the past, which prompts him to try to help his senpai out. Well, that, and it's also a good excuse to get to know her. The series so far has done an excellent job of balancing comedic elements, romantic tension, and a somewhat ominous supernatural puzzle that keeps the plot moving at a fast clip. And while there are a lot of light novel series that I could draw obvious comparisons to, it does a good job of differentiating itself from influences like Haruhi and Monogatari to stand apart as its own distinct thing. That said, if you like those shows in particular, you'll probably love this one. Last, but certainly not least, I've got my frontrunner for anime of the season, Zombieland Saga, an original anime from MAPPA about zombies and cute girls that actually part of the show's charm is how it hid what it's about right up until its release. If you're already interested in the series at all, I highly recommend going in cold, so I'm gonna throw up a spoiler warning. Skip to this timecode if you want to see it for yourself with fresh eyes. If you're still here, I assume you need a bit more prodding. So, unlike other shows about cute girls and zombies, in Zombieland Saga, the cute girls are the zombies. A group of undead young beauties who met tragic ends in various eras of Japanese history and were brought back to life for a singular, grand purpose: to become the idol mascots of Saga Japan and revive the small city's equally dead tourism industry. Yes, really, and it's goddamn brilliant. The series takes advantage of its undead heroines to work in some really brutal physical comedy, and it will certainly be a treat for anyone who's a fan of zombie films, but its real genius lies in its brutal satire of Japan's exploitative idol industry, represented by a sleazy, fast-talking manager character who has zero regard for the girls' well-being and basically just sees them as pretty-looking tools. It's rare enough to see biting social commentary in anime, let alone see it done well, but Zombieland Vinland Saga nails it while balancing it against a genuinely lovable cast of characters and a fantastic sense of dark humor that anyone can appreciate, whether or not they care about what it has to say. Also, its OP is an absolute banger and probably the best of the season, barring an upset from JoJo. Speaking of JoJo, there's a new season of that out now too, and while on these lists I typically assume that ongoing series will just be watched by their existing fans, one of the really cool things about JoJo is that each new part stars a new protagonist in a new setting with a new main villain, so if you want to jump in, now's a really good time to start. As for other series that didn't quite make the cut, Radiant is a fun spin on shonen anime based on a French manga that I think fans of stuff like Naruto, Fairy Tail, and Magi will really dig. Double Decker, Doug and Kirill is a cool show about cops fighting superpowered baddies that serves as a spiritual successor of sorts to Tiger and Bunny. So if you like that show, you will probably dig the heck out of it. And though The Girl in Twilight has a bit of a rough first episode, it is based on a concept from Punchline and Zero Escape creator Kotaro Uchikoshi, so it could turn out to be absolutely amazing. It's one to keep an eye on for sure. How Miss Beelzebub Likes It is cute and inconsequential, but a solid feel-good anime if you're looking for that. And though it's not out yet, KyoAni's new archery anime, Tsurune, will probably be great because, you know, it's KyoAni. And lastly, there's a new Sword Art Online out, and while I wouldn't recommend the series based on quality, the conversations around it are always so interesting that it's probably worth keeping up with just for that anyway. I'll leave links in the doobly-doo to all of the shows that I mentioned if you want to check them out, and if you want to try out HIDIVE, make sure that you click that top link to get a 7-day free trial of their service today. While you're down there, I'd appreciate it if you'd leave a like, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments below which anime from this season are your favorites. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.